To the Sports Memery College Football Podcast. We've got a great slate of games here today. It is basically Separation Saturday. We're going to find out who's real and who's a pretender. And along with me today, I have my boy Trevor Irish. What's going on, Trev?
What's up, everybody? Let's get some college football talk going on. It's a fun week we got going on here.
Yeah. So let's just jump right into what happened last week. You guys did the pod. You made some picks. What are your thoughts there?
Man, last week it was rough. I have not calculated the wins and losses that we did last week. I know Brandon just did god awful. So if you're listening right now, Brandon, yes, own it. It was just horrible. But we admitted there were some games that we had no idea what was going to happen.
Man. That man.
We blame part of it on you, Newman, for making us select some games that we just haven't paid any attention to. However, I will say Brandon won the basketball matchup. He chose his pick on the basketball school and the basketball prowess. I'm pretty sure I won in the total tallies. I have to go back and double check my work, but I'm pretty sure I got you on this one. However, this week moving forward, we are going to be basically calculating our scores and our selections so that at the end we'll be able to tally it up and see who is the best and who is the worst when it comes to the selections here for these college pick'ems. But overall, last week is great. This week is even better.
Dude, the games this week are great, but let's jump into some results from last week in particular. So Notre Dame basically pulls away from Wisconsin. They get a couple late picks. They turn in at least one into a touchdown, I think. It was a sloppy game. Neither one of these teams, I think, are very good. But Notre Dame seems to be putting it together. Their defense is playing a little bit better. Their offense is just there's a lot of question marks on that offense. With the offensive line, potentially they'll get some of those guys back and get a little healthier there. The quarterback issue, we don't know who's going to be the starter with the injuries and stuff that they have. Are any of them any good? We don't really know. They seem to not have anything outside, no wide receivers that can really compete. And their running backs are the best players on their team, but they're not getting enough touches until they give one the opportunity to return a kick and he houses it. So, Wisconsin, just their defense is good. Their defense is good, but their offense fucking terrible this year. Offensive line is a problem, which is never usually the case at Wisconsin. And I think you've got a point here to make on this game.
Yeah. The score at the end of this game was 41-13. Don't look too much into that. It was actually 10-10 going into the fourth quarter, and there were some quick turnovers and just the points that just piled up at the end. Wisconsin is a better team than what that score looks like, but these quarterbacks are just straight trash. Brandon mentioned it last week, and I fully got to witness how bad they are. Cohen, okay, you can make the deep ball, on occasion, and actually, you've got some weapons out there, but geez, Graham Mertz, I've never seen someone just completely miss players, just 10, 15-yard passes that should easily be made. It's awful. I can't believe that, Mertz was chosen over Cohen at Wisconsin for this.
He was a highly recruited guy, Graham Mertz. He's the highest recruited quarterback in the history of Wisconsin football.
Gosh, yeah, he just, I don't know who messed up on that assessment, but it was just way off. That arm looks off. It's like Phillip Rivers almost throwing it. Even his speed is that's the comparison, is like a Phillip Rivers without the accuracy. Yeah. That's what I took away from that game. It was awful. Wisconsin has a tough one that we'll talk about today, which should be a fun one to watch. And Notre Dame's got an interesting game against Cincy. So I think these two teams will actually really see kind of how they play. Last week I wouldn't spend too much time looking into this, but this week is a prove-it game for both those teams.
I just like that you have Graham Mertz QBR in here is 13.6. That's really, really bad. Out of 100.
I was trying to look and see comparing all the QBRs with all the NCAA quarterbacks. I was I'm pretty sure that is dead last in Division I. It's
pretty bad. All right, so we jump to another game. Arkansas beats Texas A&M. I predicted the game to go this way. Texas A&M with the backup quarterback is not good. They've got some real issues. They don't have any targets on the outside. Their tight ends are the biggest focal point of their offense, essentially, and then running the ball. Jimbo did his thing, being Jimbo. We should probably run the ball this game. And what does he do? Not run the ball. and then there's games where he should throw the ball and he doesn't do that either. So that's pretty typical Jimbo. If you've been following for a while, if you know from Florida State history, he does that kind of stuff. But Arkansas looks really good. In the trenches, they're going to maul you on that, both sides of it. And then they've still got Briles there as the offensive coordinator, and he can scheme up some stuff. Like, they're going to have some explosive plays here and there, which is going to keep them in games. If they're overmatched, like possibly today. But sometimes they're also just going to pound teams into submission, and that's pretty much what they did here to Texas A&M.
Yeah, I like Arkansas here. I'm so happy that Jimbo went down. This is a game that I selected primarily just in spite of Jimbo. With the
Arkansas was getting points. It's so easy to take those.
Yeah, and they just look good, as you've mentioned. They look like a solid team. I like what Briles is doing with that team and where they're going. I'd say Arkansas has a bright future. They're getting into the gauntlet of their schedule, obviously starting with more conference play. So we'll see how they hash out against some of those bigger teams. But happy to see Texas A&M go down, and don't sleep on Arkansas. Like, this is a team that when other teams are preparing and say they've got a big game coming up afterward, like, you need to prepare for Arkansas because this is a tough one.
Absolutely. Michigan State escapes Nebraska in overtime here. There was a lot of people that I listen to in terms of the sports podcast world and college football and stuff. A lot of them were in on Nebraska. They think that they've turned the corner since that early ugly loss to Illinois, and they've just been playing better. Their defense looks pretty good. It looked good against Oklahoma. And Michigan State is also a really good defensive team. So, the fact that this game was, closer than maybe the numbers had it is not surprising to a lot of people. I probably would have leaned that route as well. But Michigan State does manage to survive in overtime. Scott Frost is 14-23 with a win percentage of .378. His predecessor, who people thought was bad, managed basically to be 500. So you got a long way to go, Scott, in order to get there. You basically have to win. I think you can't even get there the rest of the season if you win out. So
no, he can. So in the first 3 years,
we're in year 4.
Year 4. Ooh, ouch. So year 4. I'm sorry, but Nebraska, I think it's about time for you to start looking at your next head coach. It was fun, former player. Yeah, it's all cute and fun in games, but with a 378 winning percentage,
this is their guy. Oh. He's a former Nebraska quarterback, has won titles there.
Fairy tales don't exist. You need to go for the actual talent, and the numbers are telling you this isn't working. And hey, a win against Michigan State here would have been great. Michigan State was ranked OT, but it just didn't happen. You didn't get it through here. That still wouldn't have been enough to keep him there with how bad that he's doing. So I would say, hey, what I take away from this is, bye-bye, Scott Frost. Your days are numbered. Nebraska's going to be looking for a new head coach here by the end of the season.
Okay, so we've got, moving on, Oklahoma squeaks by West Virginia. West Virginia's defense looks pretty good. Oklahoma's defense actually is probably the strength of their team, which is, an anomaly to say about an Oklahoma football team, especially, under Lincoln Riley here. But You've got a point here to make on this. Like, Oklahoma's averaging only 19.5 points per game against Power 5 schools.
Against Power 5 schools. Yeah, it's awful. I mean, they're scoring like they would normally score against non-Power 5, but when you just take the last two games that they've played against Power 5 schools, 19.5 points is not good. I was actually one last week that chose West Virginia to cover here.
So did I.
Yeah, after they had a big win the week before. I think I'm right in the same boat. I like West Virginia. They do have a good defense. They can play. I would be Oklahoma fans. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think that Lincoln Riley is going to basically put some things together. He's a smart guy, and they'll start to kind of snowball into getting more points here. But I'd still just be slightly worried.
This is another team where the offensive line has been an issue in its surprising fashion. Oklahoma normally has one of the better offensive lines in college football, including winning the Joe Moore Award multiple times in the recent past. But their offensive line is not playing great, and their quarterback's feeling the effects of that, particularly Spencer Rattler, who's hearing the backup's name be called and being booed on the field by Oklahoma fans. They want, their backup in there. who is a 5-star quarterback himself.
Yep.
Let me tell you something. When your offensive line is bad, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. Just going to let you know. It does not matter. Coming from a Florida State fan, when we've had terrible offensive lines the last few years, it does not matter who your quarterback is when you have a bad offensive line. Sorry.
Yeah, the critics of Spencer Rattler should not be looking too much into this. I mean, Spencer Rattler is a good quarterback, but he has no time. And what you need to do when you're Oklahoma is get the running game going a little bit more often. Like take the ball out, make the other team think that you're going to be running the ball, and that way you're not relying on Spencer Rattler to make a play every single time. And I mean, he can scramble, but he isn't the best mobile quarterback out there. I mean, he's a good professional, thrower. So we'll see how it goes. West Virginia, again, another team not to sleep on. Watch out for them the rest of the time. But
yeah, Troy Brown has that program going in the right direction, so they're going to be one to watch in the future.
It's good. But now the fun part is this week with a ton of fun games to watch, a lot of ranked games this week. It's just conference play, make it or break it type of week. We're really going to see what teams are made of with these games. So from here, we're going to go into our picks of the week. First one being Michigan, Wisconsin at Wisconsin. Big game here. For the Badgers and the Michigan fans. So, Newman, what do you got in this game?
So this line's actually moved slightly more in Wisconsin's favor, which is a little bit unusual considering, what they just did. Michigan's coming in. Wisconsin's the home dog. Normally get 3 points for being at home if you're fairly even teams. So the fact that they're only getting 2, Vegas likes Michigan, but not enough to swing it enough. The unders here, the over-under is 43.5. The under probably looks pretty good to me, just in terms of the way these two teams are going to play defense. I don't know that either of them are going to have a great offense. I do have Michigan getting the points just because why not? You're giving me some free points for teams that I think are fairly even. I understand that this game's going to be played in Wisconsin and all this stuff, and Barry Alvarez, they're naming the field after him, all that, But at the end of the day, I just don't think that we can count on Wisconsin to be good. Graham Mertz has continued to play awful football, and Michigan has not been tested to this point realistically. So we'll see what they do against a pretty good Wisconsin defense, and if they're able to come out on top. But I'm going to take the points.
Yeah, you got to go with Michigan here. And the number one and the only reason that you need is Mertz. Like, that guy is just so bad. I don't know. And Michigan has a good defense, as you've mentioned. So I like Michigan. I think they've put up some good tape so far this year. This will be obviously their first biggest test against Wisconsin in a hostile environment. I'd say take Michigan all day. Actually, this is one of my lock of the day is take Michigan all day. I would say take the under on this one as well. But with the points, I like Michigan, and Mertz is going to throw at least 2 picks.
Okay, so moving on, we've got Arkansas at Georgia. Arkansas is getting the line here is 16.5. Earlier in the week, it was actually at 18.5. So if you can find that better number, go ahead and take that. I do like Arkansas getting the points. I'm not sold on Georgia's offense. I know that they've looked good since their bout with Clemson, but those have been much lesser opponents. I think Arkansas's defense is pretty good. They're going to do some stuff that's going to limit Georgia. And I also expect this game to kind of come in here. That over-under number is a little bit too low for me to want to play that. But I do think it's going to be a fairly slow-paced game. Arkansas is going to try to take the air out of the ball by running it. Georgia's got a ridiculously good defensive line, so it's not going to be super successful, but they are going to run some clock. So it's going to shorten the game a little bit there. I do expect Georgia to also be able to also try to run the ball because I don't think their offense is going to be good enough to lean on JT Daniels. Like, they don't have the dynamic outside receivers healthy enough for this game to really be a threat, in my opinion. So I do, if you have to pick an over-under on this, I do like the under, but give me the points in Arkansas getting, 18.5 to 16.5, whatever it is, I would take it either way.
Yeah, give me the points all day with Arkansas here. I love what they're doing. Every time I've watched Arkansas and every play, I just like what this team is doing. Georgia, I still think wins that side of the division. I still think they are very good. It's going to come down to them in Florida, but Arkansas, no,
Maybe
maybe
we'll get to
okay.
that later.
All right, we'll see. But I'm not going to bet against Arkansas until they show me that until they show me that they're regressing at all by any means. I'm going to take Arkansas pretty much points for the remainder because I think a lot of Vegas and betting sites are fading them a little bit, and I don't know why. I like Arkansas here with the points. I'm not going to touch that over under. That's kind of like a trap over under for me.
Yeah.
I'd stay away from it if you're betting right now on the over under, but take points with Arkansas on this one as they look pretty good. But getting into our next game, this game is very, very interesting. I don't really talk, I don't really talk a lot about Notre Dame or Cincinnati or watch most of them, but this is a fun one to watch from a betting perspective. But Newman, I'd like to get your thoughts first on this Cincy Notre Dame game.
So Cincinnati came into the season, last year with like a top 10 defense in S&P plus. So, I mean, they returned most of those guys, if not all of them. They returned Desmond Ridder, who's, potentially a Heisman candidate if, they can pull something off here. They're a favorite at Notre Dame, which tells you all you need to know about Notre Dame, in my opinion. That's what Vegas thinks about how good this Cincinnati team is. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on in this game in terms of the play. So Notre Dame's head coach, Brian Kelly, his previous stop was at Cincinnati. Cincinnati has had some coaches in between there before moving on to Fickle. But Notre Dame's defensive coordinator was Cincinnati's defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman. So that being the case, Marcus Freeman very much so knows what Cincinnati is doing and Desmond Ridder, but also Luke Fickell has an idea of how to attack that defense. He's a defensive coach himself. He probably can understand the weaknesses in Marcus Freeman's defense, and so this is going to be a good game to watch just in terms of the chess play going on there. The over under on this game is 50. That's probably too high. So I would lean the under on that again, which is weird because I don't like taking unders most of the time, but just the defenses in this are probably that's where this game's going to key. Cincinnati they have a legitimate chance this year. I think it's turning out to be one of those chaos type years. So Cincinnati being a group of 5 team here who's had some success in the past. Last year, they ran the table, throughout the regular season. They made it, into the top 8 of the college football playoff committee's, rankings at certain points and stuff. When you start high like that, the next year, if you can run the table, so they've knocked off Indiana already, who was ranked at the time. Indiana's turning out to not be as great a team, but going on the road and beating Notre Dame at Notre Dame would help their chances a lot. And then also they have to stay clean and hope for some chaos, which I think we're going to get. So, I think that they do have a chance. Cincinnati's got a lot to play for in this game. Notre Dame, obviously, still undefeated. They have a chance to go to the college football playoff. So this is an important game for them as well. But I'm going to take the Bearcats. I mean, why not? I like rooting for the underdog here. And so that's where I'm at.
Damn it, Newman. Why are we 3 and 3 in the same picks to go off here? I was hoping to get some type of different look from you.
We'll get some later.
I know, yeah, I'm sure we will, but I like the Bearcats here too. Cincy, this is the make it or break a game this season for them. I mean, this is their defining win. This is the one that they need to be considered by the college playoff committee to be put into that talk of making it to that playoff. I mean, when you're looking at their schedule here, this is going to be the only ranked team that they play all season. So you need that defining win. They are the best. I believe they are the best group of 5 team to make the college football playoffs. I think they're the only one because of just the strength of schedule. This would be a huge defining win on the road against Notre Dame. I like them. Primarily for that defense. That defense looks good. They had a little slow going against Indiana.
Who do you think's the better quarterback, Desmond Ridder or Jack Cohn?
Ridder all day. We already talked about
also Notre Dame's offensive line is beat up still. So yeah.
Take Cincy all day. It's going to be a grudge match. I think it's going to be slow going at first, and you'll start to see Cincy really kind of pull away at the end, similar to the Indiana game. I like Cincy here. Again, I'm also taking the under in this one too, as it's going to be a defensive match. But go Bearcats, and down with the Irish. But Next game, this one has some interesting betting implications. It's kind of
Yes.
scary in my own opinion, but
Fireworks.
yeah, fireworks indeed. Ole Miss at Alabama, both highly ranked teams. Ole Miss is looking really good and putting up a lot of points. Alabama is Alabama. They're a solid team. I think some big interesting things here is Matt Corral's first test against a quality defense this season. He hasn't played many good defenses, so we'll see if this offense can continue to launch those fireworks up in the air. I think they do. I think Alabama may get out early, but Alabama's been letting their foot off the gas this season. You saw that against the University of Florida when they went up big and they let Florida come back. I think these two teams are just going to be lighting up the scoreboard, which is why we're seeing this over-under at 79.5. Like, this is kind of crazy. And you got a 14.5 Alabama favorite here. I think this is kind of like a trap game and means of betting, but I'm going here with Alabama to cover here. I think Alabama is just going to continue to light it up. I think Ole Miss will start basically putting up a lot of points early on, but then kind of reel it back. I still think Alabama is going to just continue to finally keep their foot on the gas and run through this. I'm not touching that over under. That 79.5 is absolutely insane to me, and it confuses me, but it very well could happen that you could get the over here. I'm taking Alabama even with a 14.5 line there, but give me some Bama.
So I think this is going to be a shootout. I'm going to take the over 79.5, which is crazy.
Wow.
But Lane is one of the best play callers in college football, arguably the best. That is why he was offense coordinator at Alabama. He understands the weaknesses and deficiencies of a Nick Saban defense. We saw what he did last year, where he put up a bunch of points on them. Obviously, Alabama still won that game because they had themselves a really great team. Five first-round draft picks are no longer on that team from Alabama's team currently. So Bryce Young is one of the other candidates for the Heisman, along with Matt Corral, basically the two Heisman favorites there. So a matchup for them. We've seen when you beat Alabama in the regular season, that can launch you to a Heisman. Just ask Joe Burrow. So Matt Corral, maybe also the number one pick in the draft. He's been excellent this year. He's probably going to throw a pick or two here in this game. I do expect that to occur, which is going to keep it close. But I mean, part of me thinks that Oklahoma can really, or Ole Miss can really win this game. The thing about Alabama's defense this year, the weakness, is their linebackers. So if you can put them in conflict, which RPOs often do, and they're going to run plenty of RPOs. Ole Miss is going to run plenty of RPOs to test those linebackers. They're going to put up some points. I definitely like them to cover. Ole Miss is going to stay within 14.5 points of Alabama. I would take those points all the way, and there's a chance they could win this game outright. I would not be surprised. This is going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, definitely the game to watch of the week. If you like scoring, you're going to get plenty of it during this one. So two great quarterbacks.
The over's crazy high on this game, and I'm still taking it.
And I'm really interested to see how much that Lane Kiffin's little goat thing has grown. I don't know if you've watched his photos week over week. It's
his gullet?
His gullet has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know. It's hilarious on how big he thinks this thing is growing. It might be the source of his power. Like some of these other coaches, the fatter they get, the better they get. Seriously, it's in the gullet. But I'd say fun game to watch. Ole Miss has a chance to make something big here. I'm going Alabama, and we'll see how this thing goes. Another SEC matchup in this next game, which also has some interesting betting numbers here. I think this is a clear-cut one, in my opinion. Florida at Kentucky. Historically, UF has destroyed Kentucky over the years. They have won the last 33 out of the 34 meetings against them. So it's going to be kind of hard to bet against Florida, but you're giving 7.5 points, for Florida here. So, I mean, just winning by a touchdown won't do it for you in most betting sites. So this is going to be an interesting one. Florida's got kind of some QB drama going on. Kentucky, I honestly haven't watched much of them or know much about Kentucky. I think are you wearing some type of shirt that is Kentucky related or something? I'm sure you'll get to that. But my thing here is I think Florida has an extremely talented team. I think on that side of the SEC, it's between them and Georgia. I like Florida here. I think they're actually going to be going to win by double digits, in my opinion. So I take Florida all day, and I take the over. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring as well because I still don't think Florida has that great of a defense. So give me Florida on the points and the over on this one. But Newman, what you got here, bud?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So I am, in fact, wearing the Pillsbury Throwboy shirt here. Jared Lorenzen, rest in peace, former Kentucky quarterback and Super Bowl winning backup to Eli Manning with the Giants. I'm going to take the points here. I got the Cats getting 8.5. I think that is enough for them to cover. Florida is really good. They're probably going to win this game anyway, but I'm not rooting for that. Don't sleep on Kentucky. Florida loves to do it. They're probably looking ahead to Georgia, and that would be a mistake. That's going to keep them in this game. Kentucky has Will Levis at quarterback, who transferred in from Penn State. Probably should have been the quarterback over Sean Clifford, but I'm not John Franklin there, so I don't have a say in that. But Will Levis has looked okay, mostly. He looked pretty good in the first game. And then, moving forward, this Kentucky team, I think that they're actually pretty good. So I like them to cover this line here. I think Florida's going to probably just try to. I think it has a chance to be an ugly game where Florida survives. But we've seen this game get crazy in the past, and I'm going to hope for some of that. And Kentucky just upset Florida again. That would be great.
These games do get weird. I will give you that. You usually don't know what's going to happen with these two teams.
Kentucky, don't leave anybody wide open.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Yeah, just cover them a little bit. Yeah, the quarterbacks can't throw the ball as much. They are a good running quarterback, so watch it on the ground. We'll see what happens here. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that Florida goes down. But I think it's gonna be an interesting one. You mentioned Penn State and some former players, from Penn State that's playing this Florida Kentucky game.
Will Levis, yep.
Yeah, we got Penn State matchup against Indiana. We thought this game would be a little bit more interesting this time of the year. Obviously, Indiana hasn't had the season that they thought they would. They've had some big injuries that happened last week, and Penn State is looking like a solid team. I think watching that whiteout game that they played just makes me want to say I need to go to one of those games. That's definitely on the bucket list. But yeah. Give me your rundown here of this Penn State Indiana game in Penn State. They're getting some double-digit points here from what I'm seeing. So, what are your thoughts on this one?
So, I think both these defenses are really good in general. Indiana has had some issues in terms of just their offense puts them in bad spots. They threw, Michael Penix threw multiple picks against Iowa that resulted in touchdowns, pick sixes. Penn State has a chance to do some of that here. I like Penn State covering the 12.5 points. The over-under, I'm still leaning towards the under, as weird as that sounds. But I could see this being a game where Indiana doesn't scores very little. So I don't think that Michael Penix is playing very well. This defense is going to be a tough matchup for him. And Penn State has enough skill position players to really do some damage. So once they get a lead, they're probably going to sit on it and trust that defense. Give me Penn State to cover the 12.5. I like the under here, under 53.5. And, Penn State, Indiana, this is a tough matchup for Indiana.
Yeah, so Indiana lost, was it DJ Matthews last week?
Former Knoll.
Former Knoll. This guy was their deep ball threat. He's made a lot of third down conversions.
And their punt returner.
Yeah.
He actually led the country in punt return his freshman year at Florida State, I think.
Yeah. This is a huge loss for an Indiana team that doesn't. They have some weapons, but they're thin. You don't have a lot of top tier talent in that in that skill player group. Penix is just a turnover machine. That's something that I think will continue against a very stout and very good Penn State
We
defense.
could see his backup too at some point in this game.
I think it's going to get ugly. It's going to get way out of hand. I think Penn State is the real deal in that division. So give me Penn State to cover. I have them here at 12.5 favorites. I'd say I'd take that all day. You have the under on this. Give me the over. I just think Penn State's just gonna just put it on them. Sorry, Brandon Brister, but your Hoosiers aren't going to be looking good here. Penn State all day in this one.
No, I think this game could be like 31-7 or something, but it's not going to come close to hitting that over. Anyway,
Penn State's defense might score more than Indiana's offense.
That's true. Boston College at Clemson. So Clemson's coming off overtime loss to NC State. Boston College is 4-0, even though they've lost their quarterback for at least part of the season here. The over-under on this game is 46. That Clemson offense is bad, man. So I don't know that they're going to get there. It's so weird taking so many unders today. But, 14.5 points for Clemson. I'm going to take Boston College to cover it. That's too many points. Boston College could win this game outright. Clemson does not look good this year. They've lost multiple guys on their defensive line for the season. Two of their best players, Tyler Davis and Brian Brissy. So the depth is starting to pick up and hurt Clemson here. And Boston College is good enough to take advantage of that. So give me Boston College, the Eagles, getting the 14.5 points.
Yeah, I didn't like the 14.5 point line here. Clemson has not looked good. I think I was looking at just DJ Uiagalelei. When you go from Trevor Lawrence, probably the best quarterback, actually is the best quarterback that has ever played at Clemson. Obviously, very hard to replace him. DJ Uiagalelei, 5-star.
Sean Watson got something to say about that.
Okay. From a college standpoint, I mean, when you think about from a college standpoint, national championships and just what he's done, I'd say Trevor Lawrence still has a better resume than Watson. Now, NFL wise, that could be very, very different. But Uiagalelei has a 56.3% completion percentage. That's awful, and he's only averaging 146 passing yards per game. That is just horrid.
So Clemson's another team with offensive line issues and then wide receiver issues, which should not be a thing for Clemson as highly as they recruit. The problem is that all of their wide receivers are basically the same mold, right? Mm-hmm. They don't have someone to replace that Hunter Renfrow, Amari Rodgers in the slot. That is what they're missing. All their wide receivers are these big, tall guys who are not necessarily shifty.
Yep.
They've been playing, their best wide receiver in the slot, and it's not working. There's a lot to not like about Clemson.
The check down isn't there. That's why the percentage completion is so low, is when you don't have a check down option, when you don't have a guy that you can easily, when you go through your progressions and no one's open, like you throw a lot of incompletions. Yeah, you can go deep, but everyone's playing those deep guys. So like you can bracket them, you can play your cover 2 in even some situations. Even though I'm talking so much that about negative about Clemson here, just because Newman, you chose Boston College cover here, I'm saying screw you. I'm going Clemson at home to rebound and get some type of game. I hate it. Trust me.
And cover 14.5 points.
And
right, good luck with that one.
I'll take it. But going into our last game, an SEC battle. Should be a fun one.
Tigers versus Tigers.
Yeah, some good animals going on here. But yeah, Auburn at LSU. We right here I've got LSU as a 3-point favorite at home with an over-under of 56. There is some quarterback controversy there at Auburn with Bo Nix and TJ Finley. I don't know if people don't realize TJ Finley used to play for LSU. So he's going back and playing against his former team. Had a great game last week where Bo Nix was benched. So this one is an interesting one. They haven't announced the starting quarterback yet, I don't believe. However, most experts believe Bo Nix will get the start. We'll see for how long, if he gets it, until TJ Finley comes back. But we've got an interesting game here. I think just because I think TJ Finley comes in, I think he's got a little chip on his shoulder. I want Auburn to win here. I don't think that they are going to be up early. I think they're going to be down, which is why TJ Finley gets into the game. But I think he comes in and overcomes a deficit early and brings Auburn to win outright here. I know we're giving them 3 points, but I'll take it all day. And as you mentioned, home team usually gets about 3, so this is kind of like an evenly matched game from what most people are seeing. Give me Auburn on the road against LSU, and probably one of LSU's worst teams that I've seen in the last few years.
Yeah, so LSU just came off an upset there, winning last week. Max Johnson is their quarterback. He's the son of Brad Johnson, former Florida State player and Tampa Bay Buccaneer Super Bowl winning quarterback. Give me Baton Rouge, 3 points at, this is a night game. LSU, this is my dream to go to LSU and catch one of these night games. This would be a perfect opportunity for it. This atmosphere is just unbelievable. I don't think that Auburn's going to be able. Brian Harson's never coached in this atmosphere. This is going to be a difficult one for him. It's going to be loud. Death Valley there, it's insane. So I like LSU. Give me, they'll cover that 3 points. That's not, too much there. Auburn with the quarterback issues, the controversy and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm taking LSU here mostly because of the atmosphere, and at home, I'm not gonna dare go against them.
Home team night game. Yes, should be fun. Definitely a good one to watch. Give me Finley all day. But good. We got some differences in our picks, which I like. So we'll be looking at that one. We're closing out this week. We had some good games going on. If you're not watching college football, I don't know what you're doing. It should be a good one. But any final thoughts as we close this out before we get to watch some good old football?
God, I hope Florida State can get a win today.
God, isn't it bad? Like, we're just like, please, just one.
They're favorites. They're favorites against Syracuse, and they're winless, and Syracuse is like 3-1.
I don't know where Vegas is seeing this, but yeah, if I was a betting man, I'm not betting against my Noles or betting for my Noles there. I'm not touching that because it's dangerous. My final thoughts, though, is a player that many people may not be hearing much about, but there's this quarterback named Malik Willis out of Liberty. I think he's
former Auburn quarterback.
Yeah, former Auburn quarterback. This guy is lighting it up, and he might be probably, if not top 3, might even be the best NFL QB prospect in this class, the way that he's playing. He's 7th in passing efficiency, 71% completion percentage, which is 15th in the country, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Like, this guy's putting up some good numbers and just one to watch out for. So I know I just want to highlight a player that is not on many people's radars. You will probably see him being talked about more when Combine comes around and when the NFL draft comes around. But watch out for Malik Willis. Might be a good one to look at here if you're not watching him. But other than that, Newman, hey, it's going to be a fun one this week. Thanks for joining us today. Everyone, thanks for watching. Go out there, enjoy some time, and watch some football.
Go Cats, go Noles.
Woohoo!